This stuff here in Yerushalmi Shabbos in the article Osvar edition. We're at the top of Pei Aleph from Ralph Amre B'Yechon Les Kapot El Mutter, the end of the first line, beginning of the second line, which in the Vilna is on Daf Samech Vav Amud Aleph, and it is counting from right above Halacha Gimel, the Mishnah, 3, 6, 9, 11 lines up. So, it's really the previous sugya. We said that either if it's depending on the year or so, either going from one area to another robbing less than 4 amos is mutter, even though it's an outcropping, it's a little bit higher, or according to the other gears, going from Shizrayim to Makam P'tur is mutter, not just potter, it's mutter. Okay, so depending on, as we say yesterday, whether you regard the outcropping as a Makam P'tur or Rishus Rabim Mamish, it's either one, it's going to be mutter because you're not going for Amos Rishus Rabim, and or because you're going to Rishus Rabim to Makam P'tur. But that's not the only case. We have other cases like that. And the next case is a similar case where Rabbi Yochanan says, even though there's a verse that says potter, it actually say mutter. The next case is the Tamatina. Mapis Mursa b'Shabbos. Somebody lances a blister on Shabbos. Imlaso splapev is doing in order to make an opening chayav because he's constructing an opening. Lotzimen alechav is doing in order to remove the pus. That is potter. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Let's come potter ala mutter." It's not just potter; it's mutter chazal because of the tsar of having the blister. They murmata you to remove the pus in order to collapse it, I guess, as long as you're not trying to specifically make an opening. Talmud learned over there. That's another case. That's Nachash b'Shabbos, somebody who hunts, captures a snake on Shabbos. If it's you're doing it involved in it that it shouldn't bite you, potter, you're exempt. In refuah, if you're doing it because you want to extract the venom for some other part of the snake for some refuah purpose, chayev. Yochanan said, "Leiskan potter ela mutter." In fact, that there too, it's not just potter; it's mutter to capture the snake if you don't want it to bite you. Talmud we learned alafas maranonios. The aronios is a certain type of kli cheres, which is made by making kind of like a ball of kli cheres and splitting it in two. So these chain to horos balames. Before they're split in two, their whole ball, they're torn or mace because it's like a kli with its own puzzle. It's a sealed kli cheres where the tumor cannot penetrate. But nevertheless, because it is a keli, the tomatoes mas azov, if azov carries them, then become tame, and because they're being carried by a zov. The Karmeda points out that this line of lefas aronios, which is not really relevant to our sugya, and it's just brought down here as he says. Agav shit for the ratio of Masita Edios because it's part of the mission. Edios is brought down here, but it's not really the relevant conversation. So we go back to our conversation. Rabbi said via us. Rabbi Yochanan's interpretation mission Edios is correct. Im here it says litzorech, but the could be that. Could be that one could change the gears here. I'm not too sure. I see it's like I wanted to change the gears when I learned this, and I wanted to change it to Amrazir Vios im hotzi mutter, not a tzorech. Im hotzi mutter. If you're allowed to be mapis mursa to remove the pus, so maybe then. That's why it has to. Maybe then I would think that by Nachash also want to remove the venom or something like that. Is she mutter? So I thought it's Nina. That's why it has to say Imer Refuah Chayev. No, don't think that way. It's different because you want to extract the venom to use for refuah, and therefore you're chayev. So, but anything else, but if you're doing it for the purpose of of saving yourself, have a lace kan potter mutter. So then it says potter. Because it had to say chayav for refuah, but really it means mutter, that you're allowed to, if you're doing it for the purpose of shlo yishcheru, then it's mutter. But nobody else changes the girsa. It would be very nice to change the girsa, but they don't change the girsa. I just looked it up. So you have to learn how Aveli like it says here, and that caused them, unfortunately, a lot of trouble, because it's very difficult to learn the way it says it here. So So the way they learn it, the Amray Bizira V'Yaus, Rabbi Yochanan saying good, that it should be mutter, because im l'tzorech, if it's necessary, and that's why you're doing it, and so then if I should say if in all cases of necessity you're chayav, so then hadaratin mirfuah chayav. So why does it say l'refuah you're chayav? You're chayav no matter what, right? So if any tzorech of capturing or trapping the nachash is also, so then it shouldn't just say l'refuah chayav. So it must be that we need to emphasize that l'refuah chayav, but there are other things in which you're not chayav. Only because you're doing it for full chayav. What's the other? So for another tzorech, what's the other tzorech? The other tzorech is to save yourself. If the other save, it's a purpose to save yourself. So then, that's mutter. It says potter. That's just because it's going off the chayav, and usually the opposite of chayav is potter, but really it's mutter mamish. So that's the way I have interpreted the Gemara. If you have the words l'tzorech there, the word l'tzorech there. There's several other alternative pshatim there, but in this line, but we've given two. The article is similar to what we just said. It's not quite the same thing, but in any event, I think that's good enough. The we'll mention the Pnei Moshe and other Mefarshim, the Yerushalmi says that it's referencing a mission later on. In Perek Yudal, Aloch Al B'Shchar Shkotzim Motzim Hatzon L'Torah Chayiv Shlo L'Torah Potter. So why in the Mishnah Edios the same Makom L'Torah it says L'Torah it says L'Refuah, and the Makom instead of Shlo L'Torah it says Imisas Kadei Shlo Yishchenu. So it's comes to tell us that it's must be there really that it's mutar chatchila. But okay, I don't think it's any more clear that way than the way we explained it. Again, if it were, I think it's just going on the word. We don't have to reference the Mishnah in Perek Dalet, but rather, it's like we said, if any tzorech was usher, it must then. Why would say chayiv? It must be l'chul chayiv. It must be that refuah is chayiv, but there are other tzrachim which are not chayiv, and if it's in fact that type of tzorach where you need to get away from yourself, so then it's mutar. It's potter because of the conscious distinction. Chayav potter may not be, but it's mamish mutar if it's l'tzorech in order to get it away from in order that it shouldn't bite you. Bite you, yes. Okay, halacha gimel. Hazorik arba amas koyes l'malam yudfachim. Somebody who tosses something in a wall, 4 amas at a wall, and it lands on the wall above for 10 tefachim. Gazar ba'avir, it's like you threw in the air and never landed, and you're a potter. There's no hanacha. Even though you threw down amas, it didn't land, which is rabbin. If it landed on the wall below 10 tefachim, Gazar says if you threw it onto the ground and you're chayiv. It's not amos chayiv, and of course somebody throws on the ground 4 amos, which is rabbin is chayiv. He threw it within 4 amos. These guy chutz amos that rolled outside of 4 amos potter. That's what he threw. He threw less than 4 amos. Chutz dal amos, he threw it outside dal amos and it landed there. And then his galgel, then it rolled into the dal amos chayev. Then you are then you're chayev because you initially threw it and it landed outside the dal amos. As the Gemara, Mastis, our Mishnah, which says your potter if it landed on the wall above 10 tefachim, shein sham chorif. There's no hole in the wall. Yesham chorif, there is a hole in the wall. If it's considered as if it landed in Rishus HaYachid, and you are chayav because it's true you're not you're potter from Rishus HaRabim, but you threw from Rishus HaRabim to Rishus HaYachid. Al daited meir, according to meir, ben sheish ba'arba arba. This hole, if there's a hole there. Whether it's 4 by 4 tvachim, which is the minimum shear, of course, of a platform to be considered Rishus HaYachid, or it doesn't have a bench in bar, even if it doesn't have 4 by 4, at rosa kosuk gamum. You see the wall as if it is carved out. The Bavli, the Lush is chaykikin lahashlim. Probably the case is it's a picture. You have 10 by 4 tefachim high, and you need to have 4 by 4 tefachim at the top of the 10 tefachim, and there's an arch. So Meir holds Chuk and Lashim. You look at it as if the arch is not there, as if you virtually carve the top of the 10 by 4 by 4 into the top of the archway. But the Chacham disagree. They don't hold Eichel Mashlim. So Meir holds Adros Kotzka Gomum. Adait Rabbanim, no. In Yeshbo Arba, if it has 4 and 4, Adros Kotzka Gomum. Lav dafka, you see the walls if it's carved. It doesn't need to be carved, right? That's when it says lav dafka, no rowing. Shaygomumu. Agav shitva lishna the sefer nakat. But it's just because of the next line that it says here. You see the question as if it's gomum. It doesn't have to be gomum, right? Evim lav, and if it's not, ain't it what's called gomum el kasosum. If it doesn't have the proper dimensions, so then, no, it's not considered to be Rishus Yachid, and therefore you are still going to remain potter. Chistamar Mored Luchsan. The Karma Eder changed the Gersa to Mored Luchsan. So the Karma explains. Boletaritz to Kasha Masnisi. Karma had to respond to a question on the Mishnah. Volo Nach. There was no it wasn't nach. It was if it's on the side of a wall. In the case of Mishnah where it's nach within 10 hit the wall less than 10 tefachim from the ground, and the Mishnah said you're chayiv. How can you be chayiv for Mavir Arba Shizraim? It wasn't nach. It's on the side of a wall. Where's the makom menucha? The breast also had a place which is 4 by 4. How's it working? So he answers. He says, going on. The ain't l'taretz is nach b'chor. You can't say something about where there's a hole. So the Mishnah is where there is no wall. He'll come Rabbi Chisda the Masnisin Ire Mored Luchsan. It's on an angle. Because the bullet milamata makes it milamala. The wall extends outward on the bottom and is narrower on top. The nachle also shpur, so it's resting on that angle, which is a rabbim because less than far from the ground. So it says, well, how can that be sofa considered be hanocha? The sofa raid isn't going to roll down, so it's not at rest. Maybe it's a rest temporarily, but that's like it's to be resting. It's not a place for hanocha. It's an angle. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Chia b'shem Rabbi Yochanan says, Tipota shesed dmeila shmeina v'haya nitoicha. So he's talking about it's talking about a thick, a juicy date. And it doesn't have to be a inclined wall. It can be a vertical wall. It's going to stick to the wall because it's juicy and therefore it's not going to roll off. It's smushed into the wall. So the Gemara then says, well, still, Rabbi Chagai boikum Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Chagai asked Rabbi Yossi, Leis hada'a mara shipur ma'ajek l'maton. So the Pnei Moshe says the Hasan Perek Vav and Perek Beis Hudakai. This is really going on, not on our sugi. It's going on the sugi Kilayim. Shishino Shalmi there learned there. Afanateh Shura Chas Ba'oretz. Somebody plants one row on the ground. V'achas Madrega, one on a step. V'umakom Shipua, and the step is on an incline. Makom Shipua Ba'oretz. Im Gava Madrega Ba'oretz Asar Tfachim. If the step is higher than the ground by 10 tefachim, then the row of vines on the step doesn't join together with the lower row on the ground. To be considered like a vineyard. If it's not 10 tefachim high, it's considered to be 2 rows and they make up a kerem. Uvoisha Gemara asks there, Im Mokom HaShipush Madrega Kilamato Nechsheves. If the place where it's inclined in the on the step is considered like the bottom. In terms of adjoining with the row of vines in the ground. There's another row underneath it. Or do we consider the incline like it's on top? And there it resolves the that the incline is always considered like it's on top. And then after that, the Mishnah, after that discussion, Klein brings our sugi over here. Talmutina, we learned over there. This is what the Gemara Klein says. Okay, to a hadar, and now Makshelo Rabbi Chagai kum Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Chagai is Rabbi Yossi. But I know hadar, and there's a question here. Chiles hadar marashipur madrega kilamata nechsheves. Does this not teach us from the case of Kilayim that the shipua is considered like below? Hadam Makshinahel Kimta, the Rav Chisda, the Mukha Yikos Midron. So this is going back on Rav Chisda, who says talking about a wall which is on incline. V'nachba shipua, and it's rested on the incline. The Lav Klumu, it's nothing. Sheisova Chevet Seireit, because eventually it's going to come down. Amalocha Shinklinu Nach. So we consider that it is at rest. Because the shipur, the incline is considered like it's below. Because the object on it is going to go down. I guess gravity is going to pull it down. Because if the place where it's on the incline is considered on like on top, it became mashinach b'shipur. That which it's rested in the on the incline, it's as if it's resting on top there on the ground. The kasha, so it's difficult. How can you say shipur madrega? The shipur is like on top for the vines. If you're saying the shipur is like the bottom, in terms of the anocha, it's like lushus harabim. How do we do? Either the shipur is like on top and separate, or it's like the bottom and not separate. Here, there, it sounds like it's separate. It's distinct, but here it seems like it's not separate. It's part and parcel of the ground. So it's going to give us an answer without gravity. Mora says, there, the Zraim are doing perfectly fine on the Madrega. The nenef in there, meaning they're growing there, being nourished there, they're not going down. But here, here people rub against this object which fell on the incline, and it's going to go down to the ground. So if being on the incline is as if it's on the ground. Ilu Omar Shasham Chor Binenes. If Rabbi Chagai had said the case about where there's a hole and it's benefiting from the hole, in other words, it's munach in the hole, just like the Zroim are benefiting from the aruga, they are munach in the hole on the shipua, yos, then you would have had a question. Let's see that in Bnei Moshe. Where it said there's a hole in the wall of a nach bachor, and it came to rest in the hole, so that would be similar to that. It's resting there. Like the seeds, the plant, the vines are getting their benefit from their drega. Yos havel hai ukimta, and then he would have had it would have had a good question. Avahasha the ukila shenach makam drone stam. Here it's just when the place is on an inclined area. Stam nano lo damila the madrega. It's not comparable to that case of madrega. And that's why, and in fact, before the Gemara asked, well, wait a minute, it shouldn't be anoch at all, right? That's why Biachal come with Yerushalmi because it's going to roll down to the ground, so it's not munach at all. It's not in a hole. It's just on an inclined plane. Okay, it's like below. Yes, true, but still, right? It's not right now. It's not anocha. So therefore, how does it work? That's why Biachal come on with the Yerushalmi idea. Don't fall off this idea of Mokum Midron altogether. And now we're going to the Sefer the Mishnah, where it talked about where you threw it and went outside of 4 amos, went beyond 4 amos, and it rolled back within 4 amos. And we said, you're chayiv. And the Gemara says, Rav Yosef Rav Shem Yochanan said, "Kshem makom mundaron." This is a play. It's talking about where it you threw it outside for amos, and it came back for amos because it was on an incline, and it rolled back because it's on an incline, and still you're chayiv. So and that is the case. It's a little bit out of order here because it sounds like it says, but really we're going on this part of the Mishnah. Zarchutz arbamas nizgalgel says chutz, but it should be toch arbamas. Kornei changed girsa chayev. So makom mindron. So how does it work? Right, according to Rabbi Yochanan, we just said before it has to be dveila shmeina. He doesn't like a makom mindron. So here it's saying it's a makom mindron. How does it work? So it says Umar, Rabbi Chizkiah Rav Shem Yochanan said vushanacha. You're right. It has to be that there was a play. It was somehow munach in that makom mindron where it landed. Otherwise, the fact that it was since line incline and it would immediately roll down, then you'd be potter. So there must be something there which. Some way in which it landed. I'm not sure why it doesn't say. I guess if it couldn't say Dveila Shmena because then it wouldn't roll down. So he has to be talking about somehow there was a hanoch of some sort, even though it was a makom mindaron and it's eventually going to fall. Since it was a hanoch of some sort, so that hanocha actually makes it a chayev, even though it rolls back in. So there is Rav Chisda's Morad Luchsan is still viable in our discussion at the end of the Mishnah. So the way the article actually fears it's going to finish the episode, it says, and now that means that Rabbi Chaggai's answer before is vindicated. Okay, so therefore, yes, the Beilashma is another answer. Chaggai's answer is also an answer. And so about the Makom Midron, it's considered to be, as long as it's nach there. Temporarily, I don't know, as long as it's not there, for it's temporary, for a significant amount of time, that's enough to make him chayiv. Okay, says the next Mishnah. If you throw in the yam, in the sea, 4 amos, you're potter, it's a carmelist, so therefore there's no chiyuv. Rekek mayim, however, if it's a shallow puddle of water, the Rishus Malech's bow, and the Rishus Rabbi goes through it. In other words, puddle is in Rishus Rabbi. You throw 4 amos through that puddle, you're chayiv. But rekek mayim, what's going to be a puddle and not a yam? It's less than 10 tefachim deep. Rekek mayim, Rishus Rabbi Malech's bow, and the Mishnah says that if you have rekek mayim through which Rishus Rabbi goes, Hazar tocha 4 amos chayav. It seems to be a bit redundant, but the Mishnah seems to be repeating the halacha. The Gemara is actually going to talk about why the redundancy. Okay, so says Gemara, lo sov davar 4 amos b'yam. It's not say 4 amos in the sea. 4 amos. El afilu zark b'chol hayam. It doesn't no matter how far you throw, potter. Shkol hayam nikra karmelis. The entire sea is called the karmelis. So down amos left Africa. Okay, now I'm going to ask a question. Why does the Mishnah redundant? Right? Seems to be redundant. If there are 2 rekakim, there are 2 puddles. One, the masses walk through. The other one, they don't normally walk through, except when they're forced to do so, when they're pushed there. You don't say since they avoid it if they can. They only go there if they have to. It's just not because it's even though it's less than 10 tefachim deep. They say no, even if it's difficult to walk there, people try to avoid it as much as possible. Still, since it's less than 10 tefachim deep, it's considered to be Rishus Rabim, and you are chayev for throwing there. And that brings us to the top of Pei Beis, so we will stop here.